続きまして、OECD エマージングデジタルテクノロジーズユニット長のエリザベス・トーマス・レイノード様からご講演いただきます。それではお願いいたします。
Hello, thank you very much for having me here today. I really appreciate it. I would like to thank our very kind hosts, the Global Research Development Center for Business by Quantum AI Technology, what you know as G-QuAT, as well as the Quantum Strategic Industry Alliance for Revolution, as well as that you know also as a Q-STAR, and the government of Japan, the Cabinet Office, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, as well as the Ministry of Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, for inviting us at the OECD here today along with you to explore this question of social implementation of quantum technology and the business opportunities that it presents. It is my great pleasure to be with you here today to share a little bit about how the OECD policy activities and the OECD Global Forum on Technology are contributing to the foundations of global cooperation on emerging technologies at large and quantum technologies specifically. For those of you who are not familiar with the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, we work with our 38 member countries and many partners and stakeholders to help build better policies for better lives. This is our mission statement that drives us forward today as an evolved organization from the early days of implementing the Marshall Plan. OECD works across many topics on technology. It provides data-driven insights and policy standards that support innovation, connectivity, and inclusive growth. We work very closely with partners across Asia. OECD has led global efforts on trustworthy AI through its AI principles. It's developed the global digital framework to guide digital transformation. And just this year, OECD launched a first global framework for companies that are reporting efforts to promote safe, secure, and trustworthy AI, monitoring the application of the Hiroshima process of International Code of Conduct for organizations developing advanced AI systems. And this was a central component of the Hiroshima AI process launched here during Japan's G7 presidency. Late in 2022, members of the OECD decided to take a novel approach to complement its policy activities with the launch of the Global Forum on Technology to help foster dialogue and get ahead of the curve on emerging technology developments. This is creating a platform for forward-looking, multi-stakeholder dialogue, and this forum that we call GF Tech helps governments and industry anticipate long-term opportunities and risks in emerging technologies. Quantum technologies is one of the focus areas that we have since our beginning. The approach for GF Tech is values-driven. We look at technology through the lenses like sustainability, innovation, inclusion, and responsible innovation. Quantum technologies are assessed not just for their capabilities, but for how they align with democratic values and societal needs. So GF Tech does this by convening diverse stakeholders globally, from ministers to technology experts and officials from government, as well as civil society and technology standards. Global Forum on Technology events have taken place in diverse formats. Some of these focus on emerging technologies and their impact on the human future more broadly, kind of a horizon scan. Some of these have been on the focus area technologies, such as a session on immersive technologies that was held in Kyoto, and a quantum dialogue that was held in Madrid earlier this year, and I'll speak more about that shortly. The government and experts from Japan have been playing both an active and supportive role in the forum since its launch. OECD has developed papers to guide policymakers from government, industry, and others on these different technologies we've studied. In the case of quantum technologies, the policy primer presents the reflections of the OECD GF Tech expert focus groups that come together and speak about the technology, risks, benefits, policy opportunities and challenges that have been prioritized. And that information and insight was brought together with a robust literature review of over 200 references to present the strategic policy opportunities and challenges. And I'm pleased to say my colleague who did the very heavy lifting of drafting that document is with me, so if you have questions about it afterwards, I will orient you to him. So I'm going to take a deeper dive on the quantum technologies, given that what we've heard about the innovation accelerating in this area. I'm pleased I don't need to tell this audience that quantum technologies has this transformative potential, and I've heard many of you mentioning where it's likely to impact different sectors and the government's ambitions for those, be it in healthcare, energy, logistics, finance, and others. And that was my point of raising it. I'm glad in Japan it's very clear and expressed to you that governments are looking to orient policies and make investments in this area because they do have this ambition and hope that quantum technologies can be developed in a way to support sustainable development, pave new paths to solving challenges, and unlock commercial opportunities. So the OECD is working to bring together that evidence base that is going to be needed for governments as they steer their efforts, and to help and support them, bringing stakeholders to work alongside them, so that their strategic investments will have the greatest benefit for both the society and their economies. Quantum technologies also introduces risks. For digital security, this is already a concern, as current public key cryptography is vulnerable, and that means store now, decrypt later. Practices are exposing data even before a quantum computer is available to break the encryption. Privacy is also exposed through cryptographic risk and through the use of highly sensitive quantum sensing technologies that can be used for surveillance, as well as dual-use applications of quantum technologies. These are all on the list of risks that governments must attend to. Many governments are investing to mitigate strategic vulnerabilities and ensure oversight. Aligning in collective efforts to support responsible development and use will be key to pursuing both trust and security. So we've heard in our expert focus groups, various researchers and technologists explain how strategic competition and national security concerns could hinder collaboration, which is an important goal that we'll talk about more, but you've also heard a lot about the drivers towards it. And this kind of fragmentation would risk slowing down progress and even reducing oversight. So we feel that it's important to balance innovation with safeguards so that we can avoid this idea of strategic surprise, where a country might gain a substantial advantage over its competitors because of unexpected or anticipated breakthroughs or advances. So we're working to help governments align and agree on how to orient developments and use of the technologies in a responsible, values-based direction, and to do so, we're working on principles. And I'm very delighted that you invited Michael before me so that he could talk a little bit about how the G7 and MDQ are working also on these discussions. And since within the OECD membership, we have all of those parties, and many of them are here today, it's a safe space that people have a history of working together to ensure they're aligned with the like-minded values-based orientation. So at the moment, OECD members and partners are working towards a recommendation on the responsible development and use of quantum technologies, and there's an ambition to achieve this in the first half of next year. Among the aims of this work are to reduce fragmentation, to support secure supply chains, and to uphold shared values. For the many business executives in the room, I want to assure you that you will find your interests advanced by principles that address such goals as human-centric innovation, focusing on applications that include societal impact, such as precision medicine, energy-efficient optimization, encouraging mission-driven development and public-private partnerships. With security and resilience as an aim, this push for a secure-by-design infrastructure and supply chains is also to benefit the commercialization and ecosystems. Access and ecosystem growth, another aspiration, can signal potential funding, incentives, regulatory support, can promote interoperability that we've also heard quite a lot about the importance of, and broaden capacity building. With global collaboration standards, cross-border research and development efforts and market expansion efforts can be facilitated. Pursuing transparency and trust aligns with the expectation governments and citizens have for responsible innovation. Building trust can also support your efforts to recruit investors, to work with regulators, and to ensure the public isn't frightened by your products. Workforce and talent. Support efforts in this area and collaboration in this area can support quantum literacy and interdisciplinary skills and encourage collaboration with academia and training institutions. So recognizing their strategic importance, a growing number of countries are developing national quantum strategies. And you've heard how Japan has started this for its national strategy in 2020. And you can see here on the map that there are 21 countries that have introduced dedicated strategies. Of those, 15 are OECD member countries. And the most recent to this list are Spain and Finland, who just launched their strategies this past spring. To implement quantum strategies and achieve strategic goals, countries are introducing various types of policy initiatives. For example, some governments are allocating institutional funding and awarding project grants to universities and research centers, often in partnership with businesses, hosting dedicated basic and applied research programs in quantum technology. We're seeing grants for business, research and development and innovation, as well as public procurement support for private sector investment in the commercialization of quantum technologies, and equity financing that supports the development of quantum startups and young, small, and medium-sized companies. I'm going to race through this, but I want to assure you that my colleague here in the room can speak to you in greater depth about the various policy work and forthcoming activities from the OECD that are aimed at nurturing quantum technology development in line with the values that we've talked about, ensuring there's an evidence base for policy making. This is a list of those, but if you want more information, just reach out to me. I mentioned that we would speak about the Madrid event. That's just one of the ones that we've had recently. It was in April. We brought together a variety of policymakers and talked about and experts and talked about the key topics of supply chains, national strategies, access, inclusion, and skills and talent. So finally, I just want to give you a picture of the kind of engagements that we've been making beyond the OECD membership through experts as well as government officials. I highlighted some of those in the Asia-Pacific region to illustrate that there's a decent level of engagement and an important dialogue that's being carried on. We will continue to do this. We think this is a really important part of making sure that any of those future-orienting policies and principles are factoring the diverse and different considerations that both countries in different levels of development, different regional and regulatory contexts, as well as industries in different frames of development and orientation should all be part of the dialogue and informing the process. On the right side of the screen, you can see how to get in touch with us, how to follow our work. We look forward to hearing from you through those platforms and meeting many of you today. I'd like to thank you very much for your time and attention, and appreciate again the opportunity to hear from you and speak with you today.
エリザベス・トーマス・レイノード様、ありがとうございました。